Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm Aeryn, and we're here for the Meeting and Money Summit. This is where experts are going to share how to overcome major setbacks and master your relationships with love and money so you can trust yourself and have the life you want. Today we have a very special guest. We have Nick Kho. Nick Kho is CEO and co-founder of Real Social Dynamics, the world's largest dating coaching business. His YouTube channel educates people on business, networking, relationships, and mindsets. And he has built a multi-million-dollar business teaching guys how to seduce women, and is featured prominently in the book The Game. Nick, thank you for joining me today. It's a real pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. When I hear a description where it's talking about how I built a company about seducing women, it's funny to me because I'm a married guy right now. I'm not actually going out and teaching. I'm more of always have been kind of like behind the scenes for the most part. And so sometimes I'll meet somebody, especially in Hollywood, and they'll say, hey, demonstrate what you're trying to do. Imagine that you're trying to pick me up. Right. And then I'll feel kind of foolish because it's kind of awkward because I'm not really actually teaching our clients. So I'm really focused on building the systems. I've developed an awesome relationship with my wife. And I used to coach, but that was when we were first creating our company, when we were a bunch of nerds trying out all sorts of crazy tactics. Now, a lot of what we teach is more similar to what you'd find in, say, like a Deepak Chopra program combined with guys who are picking up girls, or the clickbaity title of picking up girls is what our guys are doing. But awesome videos, and you should check it out on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've actually watched a couple of them, and they're pretty darn good, I gotta say. They're really great. And I went and asked the audience, so this is going to be mostly geared towards women, but some men too, but most of the audience that I got talked to did have some questions, and then we'll talk about some of the money stuff that we discussed. The first thing, got to just get this out of the way for the ladies. They want to know how they can spot a pickup artist.
For us, it's super easy because it's the guys who dress like they're trying to be super cool or fly. You'll see the guys. My wife and I will point them out whenever you go out to because we live in Vegas, so we'll go out to the Vegas Strip and we'll see the guys dressed up. They're dressed to impress and they look like they're ready to meet some girls.
Right.
What used to be even easier because back in the day, pickup artists were guys who were trying out all sorts of gimmicks. But now, I think that most guys who are considered pickup artists are just guys who are trying to meet girls. They're not necessarily say pickup artists even trying to be pickup artists. They're just trying to meet girls. But it's interesting because 90% of guys can't even approach a girl. Mm-hmm. So when I hear people saying, hey, can you pick up a girl with or without game? For me, it's kind of interesting because yeah, you should be meeting a girl and making a connection, especially if you want a relationship with her. But when I think about game, I think not just like what you say, but how much you believe in yourself. A lot of it's that confidence you have in terms of how you view yourself. The other part of it, though, is also your physicality. A lot of guys don't have game because they're so scared of talking to the girl. They're afraid of even getting close to the girl that they have this huge distance. It makes the girl super uncomfortable.
Right.
So a lot of what we do is actually critique what the guy is doing while he's interacting with the girl live, face to face.
Right.
And how we're able to do it as opposed to people who talk about it in books. I remember reading books about people who are talking about how when you meet a girl, if you want to impress her, take her on these super dates. And I think it sounds cool maybe if you're dating a guy and you're in a relationship, but if you're just first meeting a girl and you're taking her on these crazy super dates, it's super creepy.
Yeah.
So I thought that these guys
obviously... What's a super date, though?
A super date was where they had this scavenger hunt and...
Oh, no.
or they would have gifts throughout the night that magically appear, or... It was crazy things. I remember reading the exact opposite was all super popularized, where, yeah, if you want to impress a girl, get her flowers, get her chocolate. And I'm like thinking to myself, yeah, of course, if you're already dating this girl, but if you're meeting this girl for the first time, you're not conveying your personality. You're not conveying any value of who you are. There's no hook for why she wants to stay in touch with you. So when I think about game, it's more about developing that. When I think about pickup artistry, if you're a good pickup artist, you're actually not somebody who's going to be called out for being a pickup artist.
Right.
You know, you're actually a cool guy.
Right.
But I think that the term pickup artist right now is the exact opposite. It's super derogatory. It's the most horrible thing you could call someone, and it's like the easiest thing to attack someone for, especially in this day where everyone's focusing on equality.
Right.
And not just equality of now race, which was super popular when I was growing up. Now it's more about gender equality. So a pickup artist is like viewed as like the antithesis, like the antagonist of the story plot. Where in all actuality, I believe that how a pickup artist should be viewed. You know, I mean, what is a pickup artist? Well, I mean, a pickup artist to me is just a guy that has confidence to approach a girl.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. Very cool. So here's another question. What are the motivating factors that cause a pickup artist to marry or choose a spouse?
Well, for me, I immediately got on to the fact that my wife and I had the exact same video game characters that were our favorite characters. It was Cloud from Final Fantasy, which we named her cat after, Cloud. And she also knew my favorite villain from Final Fantasy, Sephiroth. And from that, I was totally infatuated with her. But she's a very beautiful, smart, strong woman who's a Harvard-educated entrepreneur, and she's doing some awesome stuff in her life.
That's
so
amazing.
I felt like we had a lot in common.
Right.
I think that it's really hard to find someone that you can connect with on that level. I mean, myself, before I met my wife, I had approached thousands of women.
Right.
And our instructors today, most of them, even if the ones that have kids, aren't necessarily married. They might be in a long-term relationship, but the way the world's changed, I feel like the way marriage is looked at is very, very different. Right now, I'm doing an internship that I won through a charity auction at the office of Stephen Tisch and Todd Black at Sony Pictures. And I was talking about how we were interested in developing a scripted TV show about our company and the stories of pickup artists.
Right.
It was actually their idea. But one of the ideas that came about was when Todd Black said to me, hey, I think that the idea of marriage today makes it difficult for people in your generation to get married. And I said, that's interesting. You know, why do you think about that way? And he said that the reason why I think about that is because it just seems like most people in your generation now have so many things like Tinder and parties, and you know, the way that sex is viewed today is so open and free that it makes it so that guys who are from my generation assume that people from your generation are more likely to not be faithful to their wife or spouse. And I thought that's an interesting way of looking at things. I definitely see a situation where people can be loyal to their spouse. I'm loyal to mine, but I think that a lot of people choose to be now in these very different kind of relationships.
Right.
You'll see people in open relationships. You'll see people in swinging relationships or all sorts of things.
Sure.
I remember that Gwyneth Paltrow created a company called was it Goop? Goop? Yeah. So I saw they also have a blog in addition to being this awesome,
Right.
business. And so I was looking up elite parties in Los Angeles because my friend Jason Hartman, he said he was interested. He's a super successful real estate guy, but he's also really single.
Okay.
And he was interested in finding elite parties where he could meet high quality women. So I looked it up for him. He was interested in coming down to Los Angeles, elite parties with high quality women. And I found this blog by Gwyneth Paltrow talking about where she attended a party and is making a TV show about it that is about this group called Sanctum, which is a party for swingers. So I thought it was really interesting that these things just didn't exist in our parents' generation.
Party that he was.
Yeah, that's not exactly what he was looking for.
Another question is, when you are dating somebody, when is it appropriate for women to discuss money with the man that they're dating?
Well, I think that it depends on what you're talking about. I mean, I think that's totally cool to talk about your business and what you're doing there. I'm not exactly sure exactly what you mean by money, but I mean, when I meet people for the first time, I often talk about business as a CEO. I just have such cool ideas and entrepreneurial ideas, and I like finding out about what people do and find out if I might be able to help them with their business. I know that from my wife, she was also someone who owned a bunch of real estate. She had a bunch of jewelry stores, and when I met her, she owned a bunch of land and property and stuff. And so we talked about some of the projects she was working on, but that wasn't the majority of the conversation. It was mostly about nerding out in video games and fun stuff.
Right.
At the same time, I know that some people do talk about their money as a way of getting status and social value. I just feel like when you first meet someone, if you start off the conversation focused on that, it doesn't really give you a chance to focus on conveying your personality. But I mean, you could talk about cool, fun things you do, and it kind of conveys your lifestyle.
Right.
But I think it's more about conveying your personality and your life and who you are, your identity, as opposed to, say, money for the sake of money.
Well, it's kind of like, I think we talked about that whole situation where that one guy duped the one girl, didn't have the money to even really take her out, and they got her a big gift, but claimed that he was wealthy, but all this stuff.
Exactly.
So I guess there seems to be a lot of that going around and I think that's where
I think it's really sad because the guy we're talking about is a guy who thought that in order to get a girl, he had to convey that he was a billionaire when he wasn't. Because I believe the mainstream media has all these images of what attractive guys get in order to be successful. And especially when I was growing up, you would just see people that were rich, successful, and very muscular and good looking. And those are the guys who got girls. We're now in a generation, though, where we also see the nerd getting the girl, and that's like a really popular story.
Right.
But that wasn't very popular back then. But I think a lot of people still are.
Revenge of the Nerds is very popular.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about him being a nerd to get the girl. It's about him being a guy that has other things going for him that people are below the surface.
Exactly.
And that was what attracted the girl. And I think the same thing goes the other way around.
Right.
I think that's also the hook for people. I mean, the hook for people that really attracts people, what makes people what are successful in dating or in networking as being like a connector, a super connector.
Well, I think that's like the next thing that we should talk about is how did you go from doing I think that sounds like there would be a good entree into that, but how did you go from teaching, these guys how to pick up women into really you teach more success now, right?
A lot of our clients, I would say half of them, they were more interested in the self-improvement aspect than, say, the pickup stuff. The pickup stuff got their attention. It's the flashy, catchy stuff that you're watching and you're like, wow, that's interesting. Let's watch this. But when people watch our videos, a lot of it relates to self-improvement concepts, stuff that actually would bore those people that were just interested in pickup. But for people who are interested in improving their lives overall, they're interested in that stuff. The stuff about overcoming their fears and stuff about how to do that. So we have all these interactive exercises that allow people to do that. And for me, I was not teaching dating advice. I'm not dating, and I always thought our company should be real, where we were actually just teaching what we're actually doing. And so as a result, I wanted to talk about how the things that allowed us to build this company that we built could also be useful in business, especially in the networking and building relationships, sales, and from the cold approach part. Cold approach being that you walk up to somebody you don't know and you start engaging them in a conversation in order to lead the conversation in a certain direction. And you could do that in dating when you're going to meet somebody on the street or in a bar or even in a business expo or at a in a soul circle where you're approaching people as opposed to just standing and talking to the person you're talking to.
Right.
And I think the dynamics of more working that group dynamic or solo dynamic, whether it's for business or dating, just so many parallels exist.
Right. Do you find that there's any difference between how a man would be able to approach somebody cold approach versus a woman, especially in business?
Yeah.
Do you notice that there's a different dynamic, different thing, like rules for engagement, I guess?
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that because there's a female pickup artist that we were talking about, and her job is to teach guys how to, pick up girls, but she approaches guys. I guess when I think about what I can teach, it's usually only from the perspective that I have.
Right.
But I have had female instructors that worked for us, and they approached as a woman. I can't really talk as well as being a woman, but I can talk about what I've seen.
Yeah, but you can see what you've seen.
Yeah, so
with them or with your other instructors that are men, and what patterns, I guess.
Well, I've noticed that when we have women that would open up a conversation with other women, or even with other guys, especially with other women, it's a lot easier to get that friendly reaction than if they just have like a nerdy guy walking up to the same people.
Oh, really?
And then you have the nerdy guy walking afterwards, and he is a friend of the girl. It's a lot easier for him to get into the group because he has that kind of social proof that, well, this guy looked like he might be a nerd, but he has this cool girl as a friend, and that kind of makes it easier. At the same time, if you're a cool guy, you can walk up to a group, start a conversation. That's also pretty cool. I think it's not necessarily gender specific, but I think that there's stereotypes of certain people, how they look, that make it appear like there's an initial stereotype that can be broken down very fast.
So in RSD, do you go over like maybe what the better ideas are in order to overcome those, or like, obviously shower, that not the obvious things. Don't smell bad when you go up to people, but that's basically the barrier to entry that you have to pass before you can even get out of the house. Right. Yeah, you have to take a shower. Well, it's funny. Obvious. I would think that'd be obvious.
Well, there's a lot of people that actually need to know that. Yeah.
You'd be amazed.
Well, yeah. I mean, we used to travel with people that needed what we call a 3-prong attack. Right. Which is that they need to remember to shower. That's just the most important part, and they should use very strong soap. Second thing is they need to have special deodorant after the shower, and the third thing is they make sure they wash their clothes. And if they don't do all three, then they're very smelly. And we had people that were clients of ours that they had to follow that 3-prong attack before they were able to get out there. We also used to do makeovers, but we stopped doing that because everyone has their own individual style. Right. And we'd have partnerships with certain stores, custom stores on Melrose, but we stopped doing that. We would still do it with certain people that ask, but that's super rare. Maybe in Vegas we'll do that. We have a certain person who's a stylist and stuff like that. We have a program where people could pay all year called Vegas Immersion. It's based out of the world's largest strip club, Sapphire.
Oh, really?
We have offices there. They let us use their showroom. We have a limo. I'll take my parents there. They won't see any girls though because the office is not attached to a showroom. So you walk through. So I'll tell everyone I'm taking my parents to the strip club, but it looks just like a classy office building. But it's in the same complex, same block. Right.
That's cool. Is there anything else before we wrap up that like you wanted to discuss that I haven't been able to, that I did touch base on?
Well, I think that the things that I found that are really important for people that are scared of meeting new people, whether you're a guy or a girl, is to lose dependence on the outcome that you're trying to get. When you're interacting with somebody and you have that mindset that I want this person to be dating me or I want to create business with that person, if you have that as your main goal, as opposed to just trying to offer value to that other person and making that person feel like you're there to give as opposed to take, if you come with that mindset that you're losing dependence on the outcome and you're more there just to add value, first and foremost, I think you're more likely to get the results you want when you're approaching people.
Okay, cool. And that would go, you'd say that with business as well.
That's definitely going for business. That's definitely going for dating as well. And I think that also, as a result, you're not going to be so wrapped up in the rejection process. Right. A lot of people will allow one rejection, whether it's for business or approaching someone for dating or to get a certain thing that just demolishes their inner state. And when you interact with people, how you're presenting yourself to the world is really conveyed about how you feel inside. And you convey that to the people that you're interacting with the rhythm of your words and your interaction. Yeah,
I think what I'm hearing too is that like people are just people. If you don't put them on a pedestal and just be a human being to another human being, you really will get farther in connecting with them. And you may not, I mean, like I know that there are certain people that I thought that I did put on a pedestal, especially guys, that once I got to know them, I didn't even like them.
And by the way, all this all this panting, by the way, is not me. It's the dogs. Yeah. We have 2 pugs here, just in case you can hear us on the microphone. I was like, wow, they're getting really loud.
Those lights are a little hot, aren't they?
But yeah, I totally agree with that perspective, and I feel like so many people are in a situation where they don't view like they're enough. So a lot of people will ask me questions that I find unusual, like when I meet somebody who's more successful than I am or has more money, how do I interact with them and convey value to them? And I'm thinking to myself, this is such a weird question to me because they're just people. And if you view everyone as people as opposed to like, oh, this person has more power, more likely to convey the right things that you need to convey to that person as opposed to being kind of awkward. It reminds me especially of a time where I saw a girl walk up to the famous Hollywood actor Owen Wilson.
Oh, yeah. And
she walks up to him, and the first things out of her mouth was, hey, Owen, you're so much more successful than I am. And she just like stared at him, and she didn't know what to say. And I was thinking to myself, okay. And then he just walks away from her. And I was like, this was a beautiful girl. She looked like she would be a star herself, but that's all she said. And I thought that was just such a memorable experience to me because it just seemed like such an unusual experience. I feel like most people get that way around maybe a celebrity or that beautiful girl or someone they really like. Someone they really like for like a dating experience or for a business experience. But you just got to realize if your game was a game in terms of getting success, as opposed to say when people think about game, think about manipulation. But if you could find what is game, I mean, game to me is trying to figure out how you're more likely to get the success that you want. Yeah. And those are the elements that I think that game is really about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes for men as well as women. So that was really great.
Cool.
Well, thank you. And
cheers.
I think you had did you have an offer that you wanted to
Yeah, anyone who's interested in being on my YouTube video or having a session and doing an interview, I'm trying to put together 100 interviews where 100 people interview me. Okay, great. And I interview 100 people. And if you want to be one of the 100 people that interview me, that'd be awesome. I just ask that. It's on video. Just send an email to Papa, P-A-P-A, at realsocialdynamics.com, where real is R-E-A-L. And this is for anyone who's listening to your podcast or watching my video.
Awesome. Very cool. No, I have a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners and that would love to get in on that for sure.
Cool.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us, guys. See you the next one.
Cheers.